Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and this video we're breaking down the Penguin. The new HBO series has just released, and Colin Farrell completely knocks it out the park as one of Batman's big villains. The episode is filled with Easter eggs, big characters from the comics, and a lot of hints at where things could be going. In case you don't know, I'm a massive Batman fan, and I've pretty much got all the big graphic novels. So I'm hyped to talk about this show, and throughout this video, we're going to break it all down and go through everything in it. Now this obviously builds off the back of the Batman, and we've also just dropped a big breakdown on the film. I'll link that at the end, and if you enjoy this one, make sure you subscribe for our reviews on this show every week. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into the Penguin. Okay, so before getting into the episode, I thought I'd talk about the power dynamics in the city and how the crime families operate. This is touched on in the Batman, but it also goes beyond that into the expanded lore. This will cover everything with Maroni and talk about the general position of the city. Now at the close of the Batman, he'd just gotten to the bottom of a killing spree in Gotham carried out by the Riddler. Going after prominent figures connected to the renewal fund, this revealed a lot of corruption in the city. Initially set up by Thomas Wayne, this pledged to donate and support several institutions in Gotham. One of these was the orphanage that Riddler was raised at, which is why he felt so personally slighted. At the time, Thomas was running for mayor, and this put the spotlight on him. Maroni wanted to get Thomas in his pocket, so he had him investigated by a journalist. Named Edward Elliot, aka Hush's dad in the comics, he unearthed secrets about his wife Martha and how she'd been in an asylum. This came in the wake of seeing her mother shoot and kill her father before turning the weapon on herself. It was going to be a PR nightmare, and there was the potential that people wouldn't have voted someone in power whose wife had been at Arkham. Wayne sent him a cease and desist letter before trying to bribe him with hush money, but due to him being a Maroni hire, these all failed. Thus, Thomas turned to Falcone, who asked him to put the fear of God into the journalist. Falcone saw it as an opportunity, and he seized the chance to get control of Thomas. He killed Elliot, and this made Thomas realize things had gone too far. He went to Falcone and told him he was going to the police, but before that happened, he and his wife were murdered. It was thought that Falcone might have carried out the hit, but when Bruce went to him, he of course blamed Maroni. It's also possible that it may have just been a random mugger, and it's likely that Bruce is never gonna know. Anyway, in the wake of his death, the renewal fund was able to be siphoned, and the corrupt politicians, cops, and mobsters lined their pockets. City officials were bribed, and things like the seawall and orphanage were left to rot. The production of drops also went to the next level, as they were able to manufacture this on an industrial scale. However, eventually Maroni got greedy, and he tried to challenge Falcone for a bigger piece of the pie. Falcone rallied his forces, and using the police, they pulled off a sting operation on Maroni. This is what we see the newspapers pointing to in the mayor's office, with it being the biggest drug bust in Gotham history.
What to this day remains the biggest drug bust in GCPD history.
Using this, Don Mitchell Jr. was able to secure several elections, and Maroni was locked up for life. Maroni's drops operation was then taken over by Falcone, and he cemented his spot as the king of Gotham. We then had the events of the Batman playing out, which had Riddler getting revenge on those who'd weaponized renewal for their own gains. Edward was a forensic accountant who'd had the opportunity to look at the books. Building a band of followers, he saw some kinship in Batman who he believed wanted the same things as him. Thus he put things in place to have Batman bring Falcone up from the Iceberg Club so that he could assassinate him. During this time he also revealed Falcone was the informant for the police, which annoyed Penguin to no ends. Riddler was then caught and sent to Arkham, where Batman then visited him. He revealed this was all part of the plan, and that he'd placed explosive trucks along the heavily underfunded seawall, which then detonated and caused flooding in the city. His followers also struck Mayor-elect Bellarial's party, which is when Batman showed up and stopped them. Putting a stop to Riddler's plans, we saw as a new day dawned on Gotham, but it was very bittersweet. There was now going to be a power vacuum in the city, and things would get worse before they got better. Major parts of the city were flooded, and the drug operations were ripe to be plucked. That's where we last left Oswald Cobblepot, who we caught stood in Falcone's room in the same spot he was. He's now looking to gain his position, and that's where we pick up in the series. Beginning by looking at the floor of the room, we see markings of liquid in the floor. This pulls up to reveal that it's muddy boots, with Penguin having to sludge through the flood to get into the room. When we last saw the club itself, it was half filled with water, and thus he's had to climb out of that to make it to the iceberg. Lots of Penguin metaphors there, and the shot reminds me a lot of the way the carpet tucker was shown during the mayor's murder. At the window we can also see the layout of the circle, with a circle from the bridge almost being in the center. This mirrors the back of the elevator, which several characters used in the main film. It also appears in this elevator as well, with them echoing the shots of all these prominent characters. To me, it almost appears like the sun, and it shows a new dawn is rising in Gotham. Now this video is sponsored by our friends over at Fan Home, who in my opinion make the best replicas in all of nerdom. They've just launched their Power Rangers Build Your Megazord bundle, and if you click my link in the description, you're gonna get a 92% discount on the first issue. This set is gonna let you build an incredible replica that stands at nearly 2 feet tall. You can build every single part of the Power Ranger Zords, with it containing all 5. When you finish, you can combine them to bring you the massive Megazord model. It also allows you to put them into the 2 forms the Megazord comes in, and it's such an amazing set. Made of die-cast metal and ABS parts, it also has LED effects that can be activated by remote control. It's easy to assemble, fully articulated, and it'll be a morphing good time, like morphin time. Every package also comes with an amazing magazine. This tells you the step-by-step assembly instructions, as well as files on the heroes and villains. If you subscribe now, you'll also get a free Power Rangers backpack that's exclusive to Fan Home. The other gifts include an LED display stand, an external battery charger, t-shirt, and Mighty Morphing mug. People who subscribe through PayPal will also receive 7 power coins as a gift. So what are you waiting for? Go click my link in the description and start building your own Megazord now. Just go to my link in the description and subscribe now for a 92% discount off your first issue. Huge thank you to Fan Home for sponsoring the video. Now let's get into the rest of the breakdown. Cutting to a news report, this is similar to what we got in the film, with even the same presenters returning. These news reports appeared frequently throughout The Dark Knight Returns, and they were used to convey massive amounts of exposition. They also serve the same purpose in Batman 89, and sort of do the same thing here. Bringing us the news that there's flooding across the city, we see clips from the explosion, and also the gardens being rocked. From here we cut to a shot of the dome from above, with a CGI artist being told to mimic the O2. Bella Real's news report is there as well, with her saying they'll begin to believe in Gotham again. In the movie, this built off the phrase, "I believe in Gotham City," which is a line that opened The Long Halloween. This was also Thomas Wayne's saying as well, and it eventually led to, "I believe in Harvey Dent in the book." This is something Bruce Wayne said in The Dark Knight, and as I've been saying,
it's all connected.
Now the next report is by WGOT, whose tower appeared during the Bat Signal scenes. In the comics, this started off as a radio station, and it was the home of reporter Jack Ryder. This gives us a 1-week time jump, and also highlights how the city's struggling. The stripping of the renewal fund means there's not much money, and I wonder if Bruce is gonna have to get involved. Now during Cataclysm, Gotham was rocked by an earthquake that eventually led into no man's land. Bruce ended up trying to rebuild the city, and he went to the Senate for help. Along with this, we also have the Riddler's mask, which was based off descriptions of the Zodiac. With this comes a pair of glasses, which the killer was said to wear. Beyond that though, they're clear framed, which is something Jim Carrey's version wore on Batman Forever. Along the bottom, we can also see Blackgate Isle, which is the home of Gotham's prison. We visit that later on, and we see the suburbs have been spared, which means that it's the poorest that have been struck the hardest. Ironically, though Riddler was trying to take out the elite, he's made things even worse for those on the breadline. Looting and rioting have become the norm, and drop addictions at an all-time high. This is the in-universe narcotic, with those addicted to it being referred to as drop heads. They're called drops because they're taken as eye drops, and we saw Gil Coulson doing this at the club. It's possible that these drugs are based off either Joker Toxin or even the Scarecrow's fear gas, which could cause hallucinations. Now in what was a big surprise to me, we see a younger version of Falcone, and it looks like he's being played by Mark Strong. His name's in the cast list, and it looks like him, and hey, nice recast, I'll take it. Guessing we're going to see flashbacks with him and Sofia, and Strong would be a great way to play it. We then see his body lying outside the Iceberg Lounge, which is where he was shot by the Riddler. In The Long Halloween, him and his father went to the Waynes one night after Carmine had been shot. Thomas operated on him on the dining room table because Carmine wasn't able to go to the hospital. He looked up at Bruce looking down, which is also something they referenced in the movie. In his dying breath, I feel like he realized that Bruce Wayne was Batman, and I love this callback to that seminal scene. Anyway, we hear how Alberto is set to take his father's place. In both the comic and show, it's clear he's not seen as a worthy heir, which is something Carmine also taunted him over. In the opening of The Long Halloween, we saw as Carmine was waiting to meet Bruce. He ended up ushering out Alberto because he didn't want him hearing about the family business. This is where he fostered his hatred, whereas in the show, we learn that he's an addict. Having access to his father's money has made him have a privileged life, and he's basically a trust fund baby with no real worries. I do kind of see some similarities with Bruce, who too also had access to a fortune. When discussing the original film, Matt Reeves said he compared Bruce a lot to Kurt Cobain, and this is why he used something in the way. He said Bruce, like Cobain, was an addict, but his addiction was to vengeance. Either way, it's a really interesting way to have these two sons that are basically both the princes of Gotham, and yeah, it kind of shows the path Bruce could have taken. Now we then pan over to the Iceberg Lounge where we see Penguin pulling up. If you recognize his parking space, it's because this is where Gil was grabbed by the Riddler. Poor Gil. We then get a focus on the front of his car, with this being a Maserati. I did go back and look at the one in the Batman, as that got completely totaled in the car chase. The shade there seemed more black than purple, sorry, plum, which is what we get here. However, it was dark, so I was thinking they might have just reused the same car and hoped that we forgot. So I went to the Art of the Batman book, and yeah, there it is. It's plum there, so yeah, guy must have got it fixed. It's perfectly fine. It's not been ruined forever. Grabbing a sledgehammer, Penguin then waddles to the club, with him popping up in his iconic umbrella. Although when the movie released, people thought Penguin waddled because he was tied up, this affliction could actually be seen earlier. When Catwoman was at the 40 Below club, we could see him waddling as she crossed his path. Either way, the iceberg's still falling apart, and we get focus on the Penguin as he enters the club. This is the same door Batman came in through in the film when he and the character first crossed paths. Colin Farrell is once more completely unrecognizable in the role, with it taking him 4 hours in the makeup chair to achieve this look. However, it wasn't always going to be this way, and early concept art had him looking like himself. Originally, they were just going to have a prosthetic nose, which was going to be a reference to a beak. However, Farrell bulked up, and when meeting with Reeves, he started experimenting using prosthetics. Colin really sunk into the character, and he based his voice in a recording of a 1980s New York caretaker. There's also a lot of similarities to Alex Ross's version, with the character appearing almost identical. We learn a lot more about him in this episode, and I'll get into that as we come to it in the breakdown. Either way, after smashing the safe like the like button, he comes across Falcone's ledger. In the Long Halloween, Catwoman broke into Falcone's penthouse to get this, which is where she came across Batman. Also, I might say Falcone, I might say Falcone. I'll try keep Falcone for the show and the movie, and Falcone for the comics, because that's how it's pronounced there. Doesn't matter that much, but I know some of you out there, you'll be smashing fucking keyboards in because you hate when I mispronounce stuff, and I'm sorry. Lost my temper there. Now in this ledger, we see several files, including one for Sebastian Haiti. In the show, he's just a councilman, whereas in the comics, he was the mayor. I'm guessing that they're gonna possibly run him against Bella Real, or call into question the election. Her opposition was killed just before everything went down, so there is the potential that they'll want to put their guy in. As we can see, there's several pieces of paper with figures on, and I'm guessing this is a list of bribes. This is something the ledger had in the work, and it was used as a way to help expose the gangster. Anyway, we also see a file on Johnny Vitti, played by Michael Kelly. This isn't his first DC project. Kelly was also Man of Steel, but here he's playing a much darker character. Guy's having affairs, being a gangster, and just living it up. But what was bad about him? That's what you wanted to know. No, now obviously this is a big switch up from the comics and how Johnny Vitti was portrayed there. In Batman Year One, he was one of the gangsters that grabbed Gordon's son as they were trying to hold him hostage. The baby was saved by Bruce, but Johnny was never put in prison, and thus he kept operating as a gangster. The Long Halloween actually opens at his wedding, with it being framed similar to the opening of The Godfather. This is why Bruce is going to Carmine, as it was meant to riff off Don Vito's meetings. However, beyond that, Johnny didn't appear in the story much, as he was one of Holiday's first victims. Here though, he's clearly outliving Alberto, and that's who we're introduced to next. Holding Penguin at gunpoint, we see how slick Oswald is. Guy can talk his way out of anything, which is something we see throughout the episode. I mean, in the Batman movie, he caused massive pileups on the freeway, massive explosions, people definitely died, but he got to waddle his way out of it. Here though, we see him losing his temper and killing Alberto after he mocks him. It shows how all Penguin wants is respect, and it's such a good way to sum up the character. From the off, there's the feeling of a classic Mobster movie and TV show, with there being lots of nods to them. It's like a mix between The Godfather, Goodfellas, and of course The Sopranos, and the show instantly sucked me in. This is how you do a comic book TV show, and yeah, it's head and shoulders above a lot of the other ones out there. Not naming anyone. Alberto also brings up the special deal he's got going on, but quickly shuts down telling Oz. I love how he clearly wants to know though, and so he plies it out of him. Alberto says he has to be clean though, as Penguin says,
but booze don't count.
Cut to the next shot where we can see they're emptying a bottle. There's also a packet of drops on the table, and obviously Oz used this guy's addiction against him. He even encourages Alberto to take it.
Yeah, go on.
and it shows how two-faced he is. Pun not intended. The guy gives people what they think they want, but in reality, he's just doing it to get what he wants. Alberto talks about how he knows there's something out there that elevates the drugs. He also gives him a necklace and tells him to keep the thing that's better than Drop's secret from Beatty until the drugs are ready. If the original Drops didn't have any supervillain chemicals in them, I do wonder if this is going to be that X factor. Perhaps something from Ace Chemicals, perhaps? But yeah, that's just a theory time for now. Alberto also says,
Pop always said you were a good soldier. That's what he liked most about you.
Which may be a nod to Batman calling Carrie Kelly during The Dark Knight Returns. Maybe a reach, but yeah, it's a term I always associate with that. He brings up how he was a dirty soldier as well, and how Carmine was aware of how he was skimming off the top. However, let Oz feel like he was powerful, so... Shit, oh goodness. However, let Oz feel like he was powerful, so Falcone was happy to pretend he didn't know. Alberto also shows Penguin Maroni's ring, which his dad took as an FU to the character. I love how Penguin constantly calls him boss as well, and it's all done to inflate his ego. He tells him a story of when he was a kid and how he looked up to a gangster called Rex Calabrese. In certain continuities, he was the Catwoman's father, whereas in the Batman universe, it was of course Falcone. Still though, Rex went under the name The Line, and he was eventually forced out by Falcone and his gang. This all went down before the rise of Batman. Oh, for fuck's sake. That should be it. That should be the last time it falls over. This all went down before the rise of Batman, and it led to a gang war in the streets. Rex took on a secret identity called Leo Leone, in which he hid out in Blackgate Prison. Lying low, no one was aware of who he was. Batman eventually took down Falcone, and then Penguin rose to power. Gordon at one point was also suspected of murder in the comics, and he ended up sharing a cell with Calabrese. When Falcone and Penguin were both put into jail, they eventually had a sort of gang war in prison. Here, he's basically thought of as being an old school mobster who helped the poor of the neighborhood. Though he got his money through crime, he looked after everyone he could and was heavily respected. He died holding a cigar, and they ended up throwing a parade in his honor. This is how Penguin wants to be remembered, with him even taking on this idea of the cigar. Now this is a kind of a little meta bit of trivia about the character in the movie. Both Reeves and Farrell wanted Penguin to chomp and chew cigars through the movie, as it was playing off him smoking in the comics and the 66 show. However, Warner Brothers said, "Hey mate, you can't smoke. Kids might watch this." So people getting their heads smashed in, fine. Women getting choked with pool cues, that's okay. But smoking? It's where we draw the line. Either way, we're on HBO now, baby, which is obviously for the adults. So the cigars are back, and we see this later on in the episode. I do feel like this story about Rex and the cigar was also put in place as a little nod to that. Alberto taunts him, saying the dream of his legacy is something that's never going to happen, and Penguin ends up shooting him. Now they're doing a big change up from the comics and killing Alberto off early on. In order to discuss that though, we have to talk about The Long Halloween, which is where the character first appeared. In the book, we had a serial killer called Holiday who was murdering mobsters every holiday. Starting off on Halloween, the killer would strike a member of the mob and then leave behind a calling card. This would normally be synonymous with a day, so like Valentine's Day, you'd get a box of chocolates. Now Alberto was seemingly killed off early on in the book, with it appearing that Holiday had struck him. However, at the end it was revealed that he was the killer, though there was some ambiguity around it. Though he was definitely responsible for some of the crimes, there was also the possibility that Harvey Dent's wife Gilda had some involvement with them too. Either way, they sprung a trap akin to the one in The Dark Knight, where they used a public figure to draw Holiday out. In the book, it was Maroni, who was in jail for throwing acid in Harvey Dent's face. Holiday showed up and shot and killed him, while Batman was disguised as a police officer, just like how Gordon was in The Dark Knight. The killer was then revealed to be Alberto, so it's a major change up from what they're doing in the show. Now while the mobsters were being killed off, we saw the arrival of Sofia Falcone. This is a character we meet later in the episode, and obviously she's Alberto's sister. In the book, she's a gigantic woman in both size and name. Her full name is Sofia Falcone Gigante, and she strikes an intimidating figure. This is something that's missing from the show, because guessing they couldn't find an 8-foot tall bodybuilder. Now another thing that they do in the series with her is talk about the Hangman. This is why I really don't think anything I mentioned is going to happen in the show, because one, we've seen Alberto's body, and two, they mention the Hangman. Now during the Long Halloween, Sofia was kicked out of the window of Falcone's penthouse, which led to her breaking her neck. In the sequel book Dark Victory, we saw she returned paralyzed from the neck down. During this, a copycat killer called the Hangman was murdering members of the police. They'd leave behind a game of Hangman, with some of the letters filled in. Placing together these clues, this allowed Batman to start to piece things together. In the end, it was revealed that Sofia was faking her paralysis and that she'd been the hangman all along. We're likely going to learn about that more later on, but it's a big way to introduce her with us already knowing. Her insanity and temper is obviously something the episode has some focus on, and yeah, I'm really interested to see where they go with it. Like her, Penguin's triggered by the lack of respect, and this lack of reputation something we saw in the movie. Batman mocked him for not being respected, and we see here how this really gets to him. Either way, at this point we then get to the title sequence, which is done exactly the same as the film. We have large red letters against a black background, which is how it was displayed in the movie. There was the Batman, and here it's the Penguin, with both the "the" being a nod to the original way the name was presented in the comics. They dropped the "the" because it was cleaner, but this is what the character's comic line originally was. Also, the font and the way it's laid out is really similar to the animated series. Reeves took a lot of inspiration from that, and both black and red were used heavily with Dark Victory. Getting rid of his body, I also love how he uses his face to unlock his phone. Penguin also wears a black trash bag, so it stops him getting blood on his clothes. Love how he just throws the body down the stairs as well, because he realizes, yeah, there's no point being respectful. Penguin killing Alberto highlights who the new heir to the Falcone Empire is, and it symbolically shows he won't let the sons and daughters get in the way of what he sees as his. Now outside we get a sort of nod to Batman and Robin, but here it's a more twisted version. Though Dick Grayson was the first Robin, the second one was called Jason Todd. Victor stutters when begging for his life, and we see this character trait throughout the episode. Penguin obviously sees a lot of himself in the boy, and slowly the pair bond. James Bond. Helping him dispose of the body, the pair then become friends over this big crime. It's also because Penguin says he'll murder him and everyone he cares about, which something a lot of mobsters tend to say. This is a threat that Falcone used as well, which is why Gil refused to finger him as El Rataladada. Even though he had explosives strapped around his neck, he knew giving him up would lead to his family's murder. So Penguin is clearly using his tactics as well. Passing by the homeless camps, these were also seen in Gotham when Bruce was pursuing Selina. It shows how Falcone's legacy was to impoverish the city and create situations in which the Waynes were murdered. Now whether Falcone killed the Waynes or not is something that we don't know, but even if he didn't, he still created these situations. Oz then flicks through Alberto's phone and we see a calendar. The movie started on Halloween night, which is obviously October 31st. The seawall attack then happened on the 5th of November, with it being a nod to Bonfire Night and the attack on the Houses of Parliament. We are now at the 13th, and there's also an event that says Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights, mate, you've heard of the game, with this being a nod to that, or maybe the basketball team. Probably that, unless my guy was secretly Robin. He's Robin! Keep telling everyone he's Robin. We then see Victor's driver's license, and I love how they have the bridge on both the background and the stamp in the top. Penguin then tells him about the slush puppies and how great it is when you mix the flavours. Sponsored by Slush Puppies. Comes in full circle at the end, mate, and Penguin reminisces going with his brothers to get them. It's a great way to set up the ending scene, and it shows how special Victor is to him as he's willing to do this thing with him. Victor says he'd like to go get one in the future, and I love how he's basically saying he doesn't want to get killed. Pulling up outside a red light place, you guys are gonna have to explain that one to me, because I have no idea. If any of the women in my life are watching, I've got no idea what that is. As he goes up the stairs, we also see the brace around Penguin's foot before he meets Eve. In Batman Year One, these were similar haunts to where Catwoman hung out, with her doing this before quitting to become a cat burglar. Now Oz basically needs an alibi for the whole night, for not only the police, but also the mob. Opening the trunk up, we once more see focus on the ring, highlighting how important this is. As the sun rises, we see the next part of the plan, which is about moving the body to a new car. Oz takes the ring, and I love how you get the feeling he's good of mice and men him. Instead of pulling a gun though, he pulls out a cigar, and Victor pitches himself as his faithful ward. Again, lots of Batman and Robin analogies from this, and it really makes me believe Reeves can pull that off in this world. Now if you want to help support the channel, then pick up our Penguin inspired shirt right below the video. This is a parody of the classic British Penguin bar, and it's combined with that classic Penguin look. Along with it, we also have our Alien Chestburster shirt from Romulus, Marvel tees like our It's All Connected one, and ones for Star Wars like Sith Happens. Huge thank you to everyone who's picked one up so far. Now let's get back into the breakdown. Anyway, we see as the pair drive to Burgess Jewelry. I love this little sign, as Burgess Meredith played the Penguin in the 66 show. At his home, we see Penguin sleeps inside a safe room because obviously people might try and come and kill him. Along with pictures of his brothers, we also see his foot, and yeah, it's a bit Not breaking down the toes. Guessing we're going to discover how he got those bunions, and I think Laris is even going to be pulling his pants up for that one. Either way, across Gotham, we see him going into the drops operation, which we also seen him running in the docks in the Batman. Prepping blackmail material for Haiti, we hear how he touts himself as one of the good ones. He's in Bella Real's corner, but he's a weak point that could lead to her being controlled. The drops have also been contaminated with seawater due to the flood, but they know the addicts are still going to get them. Called out of the family, we then see some of the classic Gotham architecture like the statue on the bridge. They really amp this stuff up in things like Batman and Robin, but it's nice we get these little nods to it even in this grounded version. At a mansion, we also see a locale that's probably not too dissimilar to Wayne Manor. It really shows how both the heroes and villains of Gotham live in similar circumstances, which is a far cry from the majority. Currently, a lot of living in flooded homes, with signs even saying, "Don't forget about us." Oz tells Victor he manipulates the family by appearing small and doing what they say. Still though, he pitches Alberto's big idea, which of course draws the attention of Sofia. Max, they put out this clip and how this line links in with previous iterations of the Penguin.
I've been rehabilitated.
Haven't you heard? I've reformed, paid my debt to society, and all that.
She's now out of Arkham, and I was wondering if the cloth around her neck was to hide bruising from the asylum collar. Ever since they hid Myzoria's neck in House the Dragon, I have been keeping an eye on women's necks. For research purposes, worried something's up with her brother, she also spots a bullet hole in Oz's car, making him go to dinner. I'm guessing she hasn't had good food and drink in a while, cause they're Markham meals. They aren't that good from what I've heard. I do want to know what the whole story is with the Hangman, as she really shouldn't be out if she's a psycho killer. Arkham security though, not known for its reputation, to be fair. They also talk about how Penguin had no choice but to go to her father, and I'm guessing we're going to learn some of the backstory with Mark Strong. Perhaps Sofia wanted to do her own thing, you know, Falcone wasn't known for exactly bringing people in, and I do wonder if Alberto and Sofia were simply just cast to the side. Perhaps she and Penguin were going to set something up, but he ended up betraying her and then going to her dad. Anyway, we see Oz's ability to talk his way out of things when Sofia brings up how she knows about Alberto's plan. Using his drug addiction as an excuse, Sofia says she's probably just being crazy, and I love how they just hang on her face. I don't think she buys any of it though, and she says,
I've always known you were capable of more.
Hitting up the subway, we then get a split-second shot where we can see one of the trains offline badly damaged. It really adds into the bleak feeling of the city and how Riddler's plans harmed everything. However, his legacy still looms large, and we see a figure on the train with a QR code. You might notice a Riddler badge on his backpack, and the QR code also has a Riddler symbol in the middle. Legit, right? I legitimately spent about 20 minutes slowing this down, pausing the frame and so on to try and get the angle to scan it, but my guy, he doesn't hold it at the best angle, so I got nothing. If you manage to though, drop it below, and I'd love to see what Easter egg this brings up. Okay, so just spoke to Colton at Screen Crush, and as much as I hate to say it, he managed to find out who, well, his editor Lee managed to do it. He managed to scan it. Getting it takes you to gothamstrueface.com, and it's no doubt going to be a site that builds with content throughout the show. I feel like it'll be like elrataalada.com, which too fill with ciphers and puzzles over time. We will, of course, keep you updated on what's happening on it, but yeah, as much as it pains me to say, shout out Screen Crush for getting that one, you son of a bitch. Getting a humdrum car, we get some 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton, which Victor smirks at. Guy's finally living the life and going up in the world. I also love how Oz has this car to play it being normal, but we see when it pulls up, he's got some massive rims on it. Going to his mother's home, she was also a big part of Penguin Pain and Prejudice. There we saw Penguin's childhood and how he was besotted with his mother. Anyone who insulted her had to die, and we get a feeling of his family due to the pictures on the wall. I'm guessing she's the only person he's got left, and she's probably the only person for him. Giving her Alberto's necklace, this kinda highlights who the true lady in his life is. She's clearly suffering from dementia and talks about how the boys have just been getting a bath. I wonder if the loss of them broke her mind, and since then Oz has had to look up to her. She's medicated though, so I do feel like it's more of a medical issue, obviously. Oz also doesn't mind telling her what happened with Alberto, so it's clear he doesn't worry about her talking either. The mob could potentially hold her hostage and question her, but Oz clearly doesn't think she'll remember, at least to me. If you have a different read on the situation though, then let me know below. Either way, she clearly is his biggest hype man and is excited about his rise in the mob. Clearly she looked up to Rex too, and she's enabling her son to rise up through the ranks. That night, they watch the movie Gilda with Rita Hayworth saying, "Put the blame on me." God damn, what a damn. I love you, doll face. Give me some sugar. That's what I thought they'd say. It's one of the most iconic movie scenes of all time, and I believe this film's what inspired Jeff Loeb to call Harvey Dent's wife Gilda. On a second watch, I also feel like the words "put the blame on me" is what inspired Oz's plan to move suspicion from him. He gives Maroni the ring Alberto had, has his finger removed, and later on even gets put in the crosshairs. Penguin then has an inspirational speech about how guys like them have to take what they want, and he travels out to Blackgate. Here he meets Maroni, and it's always good seeing Clancy Brown in a show. This is a prison, you know, Blackgate prison. Shawshank Redemption, he was in that. Is it an Easter egg? I don't know, but it's very similar.
You're gonna look funnier sucking my dick with no teeth.
Now, Maroni was shown in a news report in the main movie, but they didn't have Brown at the time. So it's nice to see them getting a big actor in. Wanting to make an alliance, he gives Maroni the deal and says because Falcone was El Rata Alada that he betrayed them both. Penguin genuinely seemed annoyed in the movie as well, and he even pulled his gun on the character. Sal tells him to do one as well, but Penguin gives him his ring back. In hindsight, we know that him giving this to Maroni and later cutting off Alberto's finger is what will make it seem like he's the one who did it. The inside of the car says payback, and they can easily be led into believing it's part of the gang war. So it's a smart play by Oz because he's getting Maroni on side while also keeping the Falcones. However, as we know, they're still suspicious, and there's a chase through Gotham which stops at the Disaster Recovery Center. Oz constantly outsmarts them, and one even gets hit by Gotham's school bus. Joker used one to escape the bank in the Dark Knight, but Oz doesn't get the luxury of getting away. Strapped to a chair, we see a naked shot of Oz and the makeup team, they did an incredible job. Unless my guy's been hammering the Big Macs, but yeah, brilliant job by them. Now Sofia reveals that she's got one of the kids who was at the club that night, and yeah, doesn't look good. Just deny it and kill him though, mate. Sofia still isn't buying it though, and she knows Oz will try and lie his way out of anything. That chicken wire on his arm, mate, hurt to watch that. Especially with Sofia asking whether she's crazy.
Am I crazy?
Yeah, you are. She thinks that people are going to try and manipulate her because they think she's crazy, but in reality, she is actually onto something. Still though, Oz is a masterful gaslighter, and because of the last minute save by Victor, she's probably going to second guess herself. Now, I don't think this plan went off as smoothly as they wanted to, but hey, Victor came through in the end. Though he goes to the calls, he was probably trying to saw the guy's head off, so we'll forgive you for that, mate. We then end with Penguin laughing as Sofia screams, and he and Victor go to Buddy's for a slush. Love how they just sit about talking about how difficult it is to behead someone, and hey, room to grow, mate, you've got room to grow. In the end, the Maronis are now back on the map, and the Falcones are out for revenge. Drops are yesterday's game, with that big shipment being what Penguin wants his hands on. Now I have a theory time, working theory time. What a way to make a Penguin master plan. What is Penguin's master plan? Well, I figure that if both families are in a gang war, then there's a good chance they can take each other out. Once the dust settles, he'll be the only one left, and control of the city will be his. I feel like that's gonna be how the series culminates, with him coming out on top. Anyway, that's in the theory. I'll not sing again, that's in the theory time. And we close out with a skyline of Gotham. I love how you can see the Wayne Tower there as well, with the top of it appearing like the silhouette of Batman. Really creative way to display it, and from here we cut to the title scene over Dolly Parton's 9 to 5. Along with it, we get the Gotham Bridge, a sign for the seawall repair, a silhouette of Maroni, and also a Bella Real election poster outside Victor's home. There's other characters that show up too, but those are the major things I could spot that you might be like, I don't know what that is. Either way, that wraps up the episode, and as I'm sure you guys guessed, I really enjoyed it. No surprises there, but when the series was announced, I was worried they might not be able to pull off a Batman-less TV show. However, I'm happy to say I've been proven wrong, and this mafia-centric tale really feels like it can completely stand on its own. That's aided by the brilliant performances, most notably Colin Farrell. I know the term disappearing into the role, it's overused, but that's the best description I can think of here. Often, makeup can really help, but I think Longlegs was a recent example of where it didn't really work for me. I still saw that guy as Nicolas Cage, only that he was caked in prosthetics. Here though, this feels like an actual person rather than just Colin Farrell and makeup. I also love the added layer it gave to the character, and that he's trying to create a legacy. Taking Victor under his wing was such a nice touch, and yeah, brilliant start to the season. As of making this video, I haven't seen Agatha yet, however, I think it's going to have difficulty topping this, and DC once more continue to kill it in their TV exploits. This builds perfectly off the back of the Batman, and I absolutely love going through the shoes of the Penguin for an hour. Hope you guys enjoyed it too, and if you did, please hit the thumbs up and make sure you subscribed. The next episode drops next Sunday, but we will will of course be here immediately after it to give you a full breakdown on the entry along with all the Easter eggs we could find. So that's the video, and if you want to support the channel as a member of the Spoiler Society, then please click the join button. For 99 cents a month, you'll get early access to videos every week, and it goes a massive way towards helping us out. You're going to get some Heavy Spoilers merch again, our t-shirt line's located just below the video, so go pick up that penguin shirt. Now if you want something else to watch and a bit of a refresher on the Batman, then definitely check out our breakdown on screen right now. It's one of the best on the channel, it covers everything you need to know, and yeah, if you want to be up to speed with the show, then that's the best place to go. If not, then hopefully I'll see you next week, and with that out of the way, thank you for sitting through this video. I've been your host Paul, you've been the best, I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.